sold the old Dodge, so this is currently my daily. Hate to drive this truck because this is what happens. I got a sheet on here. That's grease. Every time I get in, I got to put the sheet back. I could put seat covers on it. I just don't want to use this truck as my daily. My wife keeps it nice and clean for me, but it's got light colored interior. Here's the problem. It's already getting dirty. It's just really too nice of a truck for me to be using as, you know, what I take back and forth to the shop and run for parts and stuff. It's, I don't know. We're going to remedy that. We're going to fix this up a work truck. We're kind of replace the old 500,000 mile Dodge and we're going to replace it with something older, but works equally as well. It's hard to beat a Cummins diesel, man. These things just, they just work. We're gonna head down to the shop now. My commute to work is pretty rough. It takes a long time. Oh wait, we're here. There's Brandon's truck we're working on. I'm waiting on parts. I'm working on the other truck here, so let's get going. Today we're working on this 98 Freightliner FL70. Got a little 3126 cat. Pretty clean little truck. 6-speed manual. Smells like mothballs. Can't imagine why. Old guy I got it from puts mothballs in all his trucks so the mice will stay out. Showing like 120,000 miles on it. Pretty decent old truck. Under CDL, no air ride seats. Pretty utilitarian, right? Hydraulic brakes, trailer brake controller, cruise control works, air conditioning works. Pretty decent old truck. Under CDL. Look at that over there. Let's see what that is. I'll have to show you what that's for, that big drawbar. But the problem we're having with this truck right now is I got it from him. It's an old Ryder truck, or Penske, one or the other, I don't recall now. It was a 24-foot box truck. Had a lift gate, there's a circuit breaker for it right there. And it was shortened up. And it's got this really, really nice, heavy built 12-foot flatbed. It was a wood deck truck, but someone removed the wood and put this box tubing in here to make up the difference. Put steel diamond plate on it. I have to measure that. It looks better than 6-inch C-channel. Cross members are all C-channel, 3-inch. Really a nice shape. Somebody did a nice job. I think they cut this bed down. I think it was longer, but nice setup. Nice hitch on the back. 7-pin for your small stuff. 7-pin round for your big stuff. Big D-rings for the big stuff. 2-inch receiver. Look at that. That's a 2x4 receiver. That's what that drawbar is for. And then it really needs holes drilled here for a pintle hook. We might even do that. I'm not sure. I think what it needs is the frame rails are like here and here. And, I'd like to take this and cut a channel in here and put a gooseneck hitch up here about 3 feet or so. You know, get it down to this level down here instead of being way up here, because this is too tall. This is more like pickup truck bed height here. This is closer. But anyways, the problem today is the brakes. The brakes rear calipers are locked up, so we need to get it off and see what we we got to do. I've already checked on them. Napa doesn't have them, but they can get them. I'm also going to call a Freightliner dealer. I'll just call them with the last day of the VIN, and they'll be able to tell me what it costs if they can get them or all that kind of stuff. I expect this to be about $300 for 2 calipers and some brake pads. We'll see if the rotors are salvageable. I hope so, because I really don't want to put rotors on this. It becomes a little more involved job, but let's get it apart. After getting the tires off, looks like it's not the caliper piston that's stuck, it's the slides. So we might be taking this apart and cleaning this all up, put it back together. At least until we know what we're going to do with the truck. Thought about making it my new service truck. So it's got a nice big bed on it. I can get a tank, air compressor and all that, but it's kind of big and heavy for that, but we'll see. So let's get this apart here. Pretty simple setup here. Allen bolt with a shoulder on it holds this piece in here, and there may be a spring on top of that holds it tight. So we'll take this out, we'll knock it out. It's very similar to like some of the Ford setups. Good news is it's out. There's the bad news. The bolt snapped off, so I'll have to get that out of there. These brake pads are actually cooked in here. This is the inside pad. It's been stuck so long, look how thin it's ground that side. That's what it's supposed to be. You see right in here, that's the brake pad. It's come loose and it's stuck up in there. That's what's left of the brake pad. So, brake pads. The caliper pistons were not stuck, but look at the boot. So we'll be putting calipers on it. And the rotors, I don't know if that's going to show up or not. See the little cracks? Yep, it needs rotors. It's a shame. But once they're cracked like this, the likeness of machining that out and it not happening again is pretty slim, I think. So, looks like we're pulling the axle, which somebody's been in here before because they put washers on these. Not supposed to have washers. It's supposed to have a nut with kind of a shoulder built in to push them wedges in. Alright, so you saw me hitting it right here to break it loose. And you gotta get these washers off. Best way I found, take a screwdriver, get right down in the middle of it, which is so hard to do one-handed. Anyways, see if I can do this. Get in there one-handed, shove that screwdriver down in that split, and usually you can get it in there and pull it right out of there. Much easier than what I'm showing you one-handed. That's for sure. The screwdriver just spreads it just enough, and you can pull them off real easy. So I'll get these off and we'll pull that out. Pretty simple, straightforward. Get a 3.5 inch jam nut here. It's got a washer behind it. You can see these little fingers right here. And they bend one up, one or two, and that stops that lock nut from moving. So now we have to bend that back down. Take this one off, take that washer off, and get to the actual nut that sets the preload of the bearing. I got the outside lock ring off, locking nut, the lock ring, and it had two of them bent over, this one and this one. And then it also has that pin locked one. It's got a keyway and a pin. Hard to see, but I'll get a pair of snap ring pliers. I'll stick them in there and pull that out. There's what we do. You can see I use the snap ring pliers to get it out. Now we can get this one. You can see the pin right here. So what you do is get your bearing where you want it, real close, and then you slide this in, and that pin on that nut has to go on one of these so it can't back off. So even if the jam nut and lock ring comes loose, this will still hold it for a while, I guess, until it completely comes off or backs out of that hole. So now we'll take this out, and we'll pull the whole hub assembly off and get the rotor off. One thing to note, you can see how the seal's all wet, it's been leaking. We always change them anytime we take a hub off anyways, but that one was leaking for sure. So now to get the rotor off, we got to take off these, I think they're 13/16. Yeah, 13/16 bolts all the way across here, and we'll get those out. Next, we're going to inspect the race and the bearing for any wear or discoloration. You know, the inner and the outer bearing. I've already looked at these really good, but you can see they're all nice and shiny. When they start to go bad, the chrome starts to come off of here. You get pitting, or it'll turn real dull. I've already looked at both of them. I think they've been changed, at least one of them, because this one says Brazil, and that one says USA Timken, so they've probably been changed before. We'll clean this hub all up on the inside, get a new seal. You can see it's been leaking for a while. And to pop that out, I just use what we call this type of pro bar. Everybody calls it something different. Anyways, so this side's apart, and now I need to deal with that bolt that's broken off, so I'm going to get into that. I like to inspect this place where the seal runs, make sure there's no pits or a groove. See, it looks like there's a little wear there, but it's actually on top. It needs cleaned off. It's coming off. It's scratching off of there. You can see it's starting to scratch off. So we'll get this cleaned up. If it had a groove wear in it, you just get a sleeve to go over top of that real thin. You can repair your sleeve. So this side's apart. Now it's just rinse and repeat the other side. Look how hot the caliper piston has gotten. It's actually started coming apart. And this brake pad, this is all that's left. Just come loose. They were stuck for sure. This rotor, yeah, I think it needs replaced too. We might see if they can machine it, but I don't think they can, because I think it's got cracks in it. Can't really see. They're so fine. It may machine out or not. It might just be heat checks and not cracks. I don't know. Now, we'll get it apart and see.
Oh, here comes the rain. Hail. Oh, that's hail.
That's our warning.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Alright, here's as far as we got. It's all torn apart. I got the calipers off. The hoses were actually in better shape than I thought. It had a layer of paint on it that was peeling off. It wasn't the coating, it was just paint. Got the rotor off. I ended up having a set of rotors off another one. They're in really nice shape. I don't know if we're going to have them machined and use them or just get new. I'm going to price it out and see. This one, I had to take the whole caliper bracket off. I couldn't get it out with an easy. I drilled it, used an easy out, wouldn't come out. So I drilled it all the rest of the way. I was tapping it. I got it tapped to where I was coming through the backside. I was all but done, and the tap broke. And I don't know if you know anything about taps, but trying to get a tap out when it's broke down inside is sometimes miserable, and that one is. So I either have to get a bracket, take it and have it machined out, or something. I'm not sure yet. So I got my parts. First I called Freightliner. Then I got on Napa's website and got my account costs. And then I looked at another place to get these seals. Freightliner wanted $1,221.99 for all the parts. It's left caliper, right caliper, they're the same. Pads, 2 rotors, 2 brake hoses. Look at the cost of these brake hoses. $178 for the, actually that's the right one. It's actually the left one. I got them backwards. The right one's $273.54. Wheel seals weren't horrible, and then 4 quarts of gear oil. I was able to do something different. We'll start up here. This isn't my cost at Napa for this stuff. So you see the savings of what we're looking at here by going to Napa. This was the biggest savings right here, $15.59, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Now these seals I found for $20.10 each. So $40.20 for 2 of them instead of, $36. So my total with Napa, the seals, and the machine shop was $588.08. Far less than what this is. That included my machine work, and that includes this roll of I didn't include that on there, my mistake. This roll of nickel copper 1/4-inch brake line. I'll show you what the machine shop did here. So I ended up breaking that tap off. So they ended up just boring me a hole. They found the center of this one, and I marked where it needed to be over here. And then they went ahead and drilled and tapped me some nice threads. So we'll just abandon this. So we're gonna get it put on. We're gonna put the bracket on today, and we're gonna work on the brake lines. Let me get the brake line and show you what I did here. Okay, this brake line is a traditional nut with a flare fitting, just like a brake line. Screws in the caliper. It comes over to this, and this is all one piece, and it goes over top to the center, and then it unscrews from that hose right there. That's the one they wanted $270 for, or whatever it was. The other one was the lower amount. So what I did was work with our local Napa, which was that same thread pitch and the same flare fitting to screw into my caliper on one end, and then a female brake line fitting on this end. So we're basically just going to replace that like so, okay, and screw that into my caliper, which I've already double checked to make sure we got the right one, and then I'll make a brake line that goes from here over to there, and the same thing to that one, and then all that'll be new, and we'll have good brake lines. This was, like you saw, $15 a piece, well worth the investment, because these are from 1998, so far better. Now we have to screw this onto the caliper before we put this into the bracket and take care of that, but that's okay. Not a big deal at all. So we'll get going on this now. This is that caliper mount. I like to clean up all the places where the slides of the calipers mount. Paying close attention to the corners. I'll use one of these, or get a screwdriver down in there and get that busted loose. I like to file it and get all the rust loose. I'm not looking to remove material, but I want it to be smooth like it was originally, like this. Take down any high spots, stuff like that. So that's how I'll clean it up, and then we'll use some of that brake lube I have. Do this one-handed real well, but I'll get this one cleaned up and get it ready to go. I wanted to check the front brakes and make sure there's nothing goofy going on with these. And there's not. They got decent pad. I mean, there's probably half pad there. Rotors look decent. Tie rods are tight. We'll go ahead and grease it while we got it up. We got the wheels off the ground. That way it's easier to get the kingpin. I already checked the kingpin. Made sure it wasn't sure it wasn't sloppy. You can see the pad there. So we'll go ahead and grease the front end too while we're at it. I'm going to go ahead and swap these wheels out, put some aluminum wheels on. One of the problems is the studs aren't long enough. So what I do is knock the studs out and measure them with a micrometer. Figure out what size they actually are. And then I figure out how much longer I need them. And I start looking, see what I can find online. And I located them. These are the rear ones. You can see they're near a ½ inch longer because the difference in a steel wheel. We'll run one steel inside and then one aluminum outside on the rear, and then just one aluminum on the front. So what I'm going to do is I knocked out a front one and knocked out a back one. The body diameter is the same, which is what they call this, and then the serrated actually sticks out a little bit. So the body is the same. The distance from the flange to the first thread's the same. So what we're going to do is knock these out of the back, move them to the front. That takes care of that. Now, for the back ones, I need, just like the front, I need a ½ inch longer. So I found them online, website. I take the measurements and I go to Comnet, whatever it's called. I go to their website and I find the measurements. This is an M22 by 1.5. That's what this stud is. And then you figure out what body you need and what length you need. And you can get on their chart and find out. So it's going to cost me not a whole lot of money. I'll change out the rear ones, knock the rear ones out, move them forward. Now for the wheels, a while ago I bought this truck for parts. This is a 07 International 9200 with an ISX Cummins and a 10-speed. I bought it for parts. Sucker's got, I think, 3 fuel tanks on it. Holds a lot of fuel. Anyways, it's got these aluminum wheels on it. The tires are kind of crappy. I've already singled them out, swapped them out for another truck. So what we're going to do is take these wheels off and break down the tires, get them off. We're going to take 4 of these outside wheels in to get polished. They'll polish the outside of 2 and the inside of 2, and then we'll use them on here. I can buy aftermarket aluminum wheels for right at $200 a piece, but they'll polish these so much cheaper, and I'm trying to keep the budget down. But I'd like to put aluminum wheels on the truck and doll it up a little bit. So let's get this going. Let's get these off. So this is what they look like now. Pretty rough. So let's see what they look like when we get them back. A lot of pitting there. I may have to put a trim over top of that, but that's okay. I don't mind that at all. It's doing the face now.
Yeah.
The flat part.
See, it'll do on the left side of the clamping plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it'll come over to this side over here. And does it in sections, and sometimes it runs backwards doing it. Oh, I ain't just got it so it just goes all the way out. Yeah,
this rolls the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I can't believe that. I can't wait to see what these turn out like. Okay, these are the studs from the rear. I knocked all the short ones out, got all the long ones from the rear, pulled back in on both sides so they're good to go. When I do this, I put the new one in. I tap it in as far as I can this way. I put a bearing in here and run a lug nut in, and then I tighten the lug nut and keep tapping on the back, and it helps the seat that much easier so you're not straining on your threads nearly as much, you know, if you just put some tension on it and give it a smack. So that's how I put those in, and I got of course the back ones all out because they're in the front now, but I got my brackets cleaned up for the brakes. You know, they're all ready to go here. So now we're just waiting on parts. The thing I need next is the studs for the hub, because it's a whole lot easier to put them studs in now because the rotor sits here. So if I do them before I put the rotor on, it's much easier to push in. So once those longer studs show up, we'll put them in. Then we'll go back together, and we're not going to. I don't think we're going to use these tires. I'm undecided right now. These are, I think, these are 295/75 22.5s. The rear were 11R 22.5s, and these ones measure out to be about 41 inches tall. I have a set of 255/70 22.5s, so they're 5 inches shorter total. So they'll lower the deck height 2.5 inches. So we may do that. On the front, I'm not sure what we're going to use. I may use that same profile tire. It's not a real huge horsepower truck, so that would help. Not going to be so great on the highway, but smaller, shorter tire give me a little more power, a little more pickup, a little more zip. Anyways, that's as far as we can go right now. This video is getting long anyways, so we're gonna stop this one here, and we'll pick up on it once we get the rest of our parts. Once we have the rest of our parts, we'll go on to step 2 and hopefully get it all done. So if you guys like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Leave your comments down below, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.